And so as the DA, we are not buying their game. What this game is solely about is by ensuring that the MK party or the leadership that is Zuma get to pay up on the favor that they owe Hlophe. But we find ourselves here right now because of Hlophe himself. Had he been a well-behaved man with integrity that South Africans expected him to have, had he been one that we could still respect, which we did at some point actually, for the work that he does for the Judicial Service Commission or the judicial system as a whole, had he just been a man of honor, we wouldn't find ourselves in this mess. We never imagined that we would be in a South Africa where an impeached judge seeks to use a political backdoor to enter into the judicial system. So nobody imagined that we would be this disgraced as a nation to have such a case, yet here we are. Because you have people like Hlophe who are compromised and will try to taint proceedings just to protect their political elite. It's political kabuki, actually, if you want to call it that. And
for a reaction on this, I'm now joined by Karabo Hahau, the DA National Spokesperson. Karabo, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this afternoon. Now, seemingly a win for the DA with Dr. Hlophe's resignation?
Good afternoon, Katlego. Thank you so much for having me, and good afternoon to your viewers. It is certainly a win for the Democratic Alliance, but more so a win for the people of South Africa. These people depend on a JSE that has the highest standard of integrity to ensure that whoever gets to become a judge in this land is fit for purpose. And we do not want a JSE that is going to be tainted by political interference with people that have shown themselves to not only have the moral fiber requisite for sitting in such a body, but people who have also shown themselves to be skillful enough to want to use the Judicial Service Commission as well as the judicial system as a whole to protect the corrupt politicians who do not care about South Africans, as is the case with his relationship with the former President Jacob Zuma.
Well, on the flip side, I mean, the MK party is saying a bit of an opposite to what you're putting forward with regards to them not wanting to be associated with what they describe to be a fraudulent and improperly constituted body.
So look, let's call it a spade, Katlego. What the MK party and Hlophe are trying to do here is to hold the JSE to ransom, trying to hold the processes. It's a cheap political stunt on their behalf, trying to question the integrity of the JSE. And this is something that we will not allow, because the bottom line here remains, we've said in the past, that if the MK party was really adamant that they wanted somebody else to serve on the JSE, to have a fully constituted designation from Parliament with their representation as an opposition party from the AK side, they could have written to Parliament to ask for that to happen, and that hasn't happened yet. And so what we've also done is to get Parliament's advice legally on what this means as far as the numbers that are now 5 instead of 6, what it means legally there. But as the Democratic Alliance, we remain committed to our argument in this case, to say that the people, all the other people from Parliament who serve in the JSE are the right people. The only problem that we had with the composition of Parliament's designation was Hlophe sitting on the commission himself because of him being compromised. So the MK party mustn't try to play with South Africans, our intelligence and our emotions by calling the constitution, the composition of the JSE one that lacks integrity or one that is unconstitutional or illegal, because that is far from the case. If anything, it would have been one that could have been compromised had Hlophe himself been part of the JSE. But without him there, we have absolute confidence in the JSE. We have absolute confidence with all the other commissioners who are serving there. We have absolute confidence in South Africa's Judicial Commission, and we look forward to ensuring that the vacancies that are going to be filled across all courts, including the vacancy that was created by Hlophe's impeachment, we look forward to seeing those outcomes and who's going to be there. Because bottom line, what we want to ensure is that when South Africans go to court, either because of matters of murder, either for matters of GBV, that their cases are heard, that they dealt with speedily, with the resources accordingly, the human resource that is necessary there, and making sure that people in South Africa get justice. We also want to make sure that any other problem that has to do with political operations with the country is not going to be swept under the carpet because you have people like Hlophe who are compromised and will try to taint proceedings just to protect their political elite. And so as the DA, we are not buying buying their game. It is a cheap one. They're wasting our time. They're wasting the time of South Africans, and we are not going to play that ball.
I mean, it is the JSC and not the JSC, and I know it could be a play on those letters there. But particularly on that point, Karabo, with regards to resources and being a waste of time, do you think that this exercise was a futile one? I mean, going to the courts, the money and the costs that have gone into this, only for Dr. Hlophe to later on resign on the day of the interviews taking place?
Yes, and we said so. And Oscar, you're right, it's the JSC. I'll emphasize on the C better. You are right. It is a waste of time because we could have, it's a waste of energy altogether for all the wrong reasons. Like I said in the beginning, if honestly the true end goal here was to make sure that the MK party's right as a political party in parliament, designation or fielding of a candidate to sit on the JSE, as is the case, was if the goal here was to protect that right, then what could have happened was for the MK party to choose anyone from their shady benches to fill Hlophe's seat. But it is not about that, and we've seen that, and that's why we are here. What this game is solely about is by ensuring that the MK party or the leadership that is Zuma get to pay up on the favor that they own, that they Hlophe, and they're wasting South Africa's time. While that is the case, they're wasting Parliament's time, they're wasting political parties' time, one that is very precious. When we have such pressing matters in South Africa that we're supposed to deal with, like the electricity crisis, for example, how tariffs are higher when people are paying way too much money for electricity, where they have to choose between putting the lights on or putting the lights on, taking a shower or cooking, and they can't do that all at the same time. Those are things that we're supposed to be dealing with. We're supposed to be seeing how we are going to ensure that people don't die in South Africa, that we have a GBV response team that works, making sure that we clamp down on corruption across all government departments, making sure that we reduce crime, not only from murder, but to robbery and everything else that's wrong. Those are the things that we're supposed to be dealing with. That's what the what the MK party owes to its voters. Instead, it is wasting money, time, and the resources of our land on playing politics for a man that does not only lack the integrity necessary to represent South Africans accordingly, but a man that has shown himself to not even care, not even by the slightest bits about South Africans. So if I were an MK voter, I would be upset that I sent these people to parliament to fight for proper things in parliament for our South Africans, but now they're interested in playing political scores. And that is why the Democratic Alliance has gotten our gloves off on this case. So we will not let them. For as long as our land is a democratic one, we will fight to protect the democratic principles that are the bedrock of every political move that we make in South Africa. We will protect South Africans who depend on a judicial service that works. And we see this play for exactly what it is, a political ploy. It's political kabuki, actually, if you want to call it that, and nothing else.
Talking about political kabuki and settling political scores, Karabo, I mean, a week ago, former Judge Johan Kriegler implored that such political disputes be kept out of the courts now and should rather be debated within Parliament, and you find your solutions there. Do you think if you had not gone to the court, you would have had a different outcome?
I mean, it's two ways, right? So the first thing here is that we are in uncharted waters here. We never imagined that we would be in a South Africa where an impeached judge seeks to use a political backdoor to enter into the judicial system. So nobody imagined that we would be this disgraced as a nation to have such a case, yet here we are. And this is what we're grappling with. And because we never imagined we would be there, we don't have laws yet in Parliament or rules that strictly say this is what is supposed to happen when you consider the designation to the JSE. But then, this is why the Democratic Alliance, we said, but even though the rules are not black and white, the Parliament still has a responsibility to scrutinize and apply its discretion when approving people who gets to not only sit in committees, but particularly in this case to sit in the JSE. And Parliament's responsibility must be taken. But because it never had to take it before, we are here, and that's why we had to seek the court's way. But the second problem that we have, the other side of the problem here is we, as the Democratic Alliance, made submissions to the Western Cape High Court on two parts. Obviously, the first and the first, which we heard, which is for the interdictor number 2 to deal with the problem number 1 that I highlighted. But on on us going through this journey here on the basis of Part A's ruling, it could have easily been avoided had the MK party been wise and sober enough to, instead of wanting to go to court and drag us for nothing, instead they could have written to the speaker to say, the speaker, as a political party, we still respect our ability and opportunity to field a candidate to go serve in the JSE. Let us replace it with any of our MPs. Yes, of course, we don't have confidence in any of those MPs because they're all marred with state capture allegations and they're problematic people, but at least none of them are compromised judges who have been impeached for gross misconduct by the JSC. So those are two things. So ideally, it shouldn't be that the court gets to play referee for the role of either the legislative arm of state or the executive arm of state. But we find ourselves here right now because of Hlophe himself. Had he been a well-behaved man with integrity that South Africans expected him to have, had he been one that we could still respect, which we did at some point actually, for the work that he does for the Judicial Service Commission or the judicial system as a whole, had he just been a man of honor, we wouldn't find ourselves in this mess.
All right, Kabuki, thank you so much.